S in the acronym PASS stands for setup. And what I mean by that is the props, the gadget, and the technology that you should be considering that's going to aid your talk. What are the simple props can you think about? Personally, I think of using a pack of cards that can have multiple uses in, or something else that's simple to carry around in your bag, like Post-it notes. And I use that to aid discussion. I use that for people to write down their thoughts and they give me feedback on. So think of simple props that's going to aid your talk. Another thing that you should be considering as part of a prop is the podium. When you are speaking, consider if the podium is movable or immovable. Now, if it's immovable, it's sort of just standing there. You can't do much about that. But if it is movable, then consider moving the podium to your pane side of the stage. And what do you put on the podium? Basically, you put your laptop and your speaking notes and nothing else. Try not to be the person that stands behind the podium and hides yourself from the audience, or you put your hands on this podium because you feel like you can't stand still. Your podium is just meant for your laptop and maybe some notes, but nothing more. Try to keep this gain side or the future side of your stage nice and clean. So coming back to props, if you have a lot of props to share with them, where you're constantly going up and down to bring up a something to show your audience, also keep that on your pane side or your right-hand side of the stage. And it needs to be less distracting to your audience. So if you have a lot of props, cover it with a black cloth and only bring it out when it's needed. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, as you are speaking, your audience is constantly going to be looking at that prop that's glaring at them and wondering, when is this thing going to be used? So bring it out only when it's needed and have it covered until the time that you're going to be using it. Now let's talk about gadgets. The rule as a speaker is that you are in charge of the execution of your presentation. And that means that you need to consider everything that you need in order to flawlessly execute your presentation. And you need to bring your own gadgets, your own stuff, your own technology to make that work. So I would advise you to have the following in your kit. Not only your laptop, which is a standard as a presenter, but also your clicker. Don't be one of those people that goes to their laptop and scrolls forward in order to go ahead on a PowerPoint slide. Get your own backup batteries so that your clicker, in case the batteries don't work, you have something to fall back on. Your own USB flash disk or a hard drive which contains a backup of your presentation. Include things like adapter cables, extension cords, one of those connectors that connects your laptop to the projector. Make sure that you include both the HDMI connector as well as a VGA, just in case the venue that you're presenting at has a different type of projector to what you have. Now consider things that will also aid your talk, like Koki pens. Take some whiteboard markers and have a range of colors. And lastly, I want you to think of everything else that you need in order to make a presentation work. And that means a backup laptop, your own speakers, and your own chargers. So in conclusion of this section, remember that as a presenter, you have been given that responsibility that comes with the privilege of speaking. And with that responsibility means that you have to take full accountability for how you present and deliver your message. And that means making sure that you have all the tools, all the gadgets, all the technology in order to deliver that message. We are still in the lecture about setup, but I've created a separate lecture for you just on microphones because there's so many things that you need to know about microphones. Now with a handheld microphone, please don't be one of those people that come to the stage and put the microphone close to your mouth and you've got all the angles right, but then you do the following. Testing, testing, can you hear me? Testing, can you hear me? It's so annoying to your audience. You'll just frustrate them immediately. And the whole point of being a presenter is to gain the trust and the appreciation of your audience. And if you're doing that and you're already annoying them, you're starting on the wrong footing. So to avoid this, just get to the venue an hour earlier and speak to the technicians. They'll ask you to speak with the microphone and they'll save the setting. as long as the setting is saved, when you actually go and speak on the stage, they literally align that particular microphone with the setting, and so you speak normally. So what I would ask you to do, just start speaking and keep your eye on the technician. And as you speak, they'll give you like a sign, a thumbs up, or some sort of signal to let you know that the audience can hear you and the volume is perfect. And once they give you that signal, readjust your eye contact with your audience and continue with your presentation. No need for testing, can you hear me? So this is a handheld microphone. What if you are given one of those microphones that is on the stage and you need to adjust it on the stand? Let's talk about that. What I would suggest is, as you walk onto the stage, get someone to help you to adjust the height of that microphone to your height. Especially if you had an earlier speaker that's a bit taller or shorter than you. Because what I've found is, as a presenter, you don't want to be seen as being one of those that's fumbling and frustrated, and you can't get that adjustment of that height right. Because then it starts frustrating and you start off your speech in a very agitated mode. But if you get someone to help you and you're just sort of standing there, politely waiting, you start off your presentation in a much more calmer state. Now, before I move on to some other forms of microphones, just to be aware that if you have a handheld, hopefully you are given one which is cordless. So at least that eliminates the fear of tripping over the cord. And if you are given a cord microphone, just be aware of where the speakers are in relation to the microphone, so that you're not creating any interference as you're walking around. Let's move on to some other types of microphones. The second type is what is known as a lavalier or a lapel mic, and that grips onto your clothing. If you are using one of these, I would suggest making sure that you have a pants or a belt or a buckle for the transmitter portion of this to be hooked in. And before you present, just make sure that you got the cord nicely tied up, so as you are presenting, you don't have this cord hanging at the back, which takes away your message and makes you look a little bit untidy and distracting to your audience. And finally, consider your jewelry and your hair. Have your hair up and keep your jewelry to a minimum. No jingly jangle bangles or big earrings that's going to interfere with the sound and create a bit of a distracting noise. And as long as you do all of those things, you will be fine with a lapel mic. And if you are offered the opportunity, I would highly suggest that you go for what is known as a headset. That's the one where the speaker comes close to your mouth, and they sometimes tape the speaker portion to your face. And with that, you don't have to worry about the lapel mic, as an example, being on your clothing and creating a bit of a distracting noise. You have freedom of your hands. And so if you are given the option, I would choose that one. Regardless of what type of microphone you're using, whether it's a handheld or a lapel mic or a Countryman, you need to do the following 3 steps. Number 1 is to warm up your voice. Every singer knows this. No singer gets onto a stage and just starts singing. You need to warm up your voice so that you don't sound cold and croaky, where you're one of those people that's constantly doing that to your voice, where you're clearing up your voice so it sounds a little bit more warmer. So what I would suggest is, on the way to your venue, in the car, recite the alphabet, say A, E, I, O, U a few times, and say this loudly, softly, different modulation of your voice. It helps to warm up your voice. Even better is to play your favorite song in the car and sing that song to its full capacity, as if you're in front of an audience of 50,000 people. I know it might look weird to the fellow travelers around you, but that's okay. They're not knowing what you are about to do. You are about to deliver a message to your audience, and it's important that you warm up your voice. Another way of warming up your voice is to simply start speaking to people at the venue, regardless if it's to the host or to your audience. As you speak, you warm up your voice. So avoid being quiet and afraid of delivering your presentation and conserving your voice just before you present. The more you speak just before you present, the warmer your voice will be. Number 2, is to drink water at least 2 hours before your talk. This helps to hydrate your vocals. It's no use drinking water on the stage because that's going to not hydrate your vocals just then. Remember, there are two pipes in your throat, one to eat food and the other to speak, which is your vocals. And it takes roughly about 2 hours for your vocals to be hydrated. So drink room temperature water at least 2 hours before your talk. And number 3 is your body posture. As you speak, regardless if it's with a lapel mic, a Countryman or a handheld, keep your body posture upright because it allows your lungs to be at its full capacity. And when your lungs are at full capacity, your voice is much more easily projected and you sound fuller and you sound more encompassing and engaging to your audience. And don't be one of those that slouches and talks. Again, it impacts on your voice projection. This concludes this section on use of microphones. So I'm hoping by the end of this particular slot, you will be able to take any microphone and make it work for you, because you should not be afraid of the tool that's actually aiding you to spread your message to your audience.